Guys, we need to talk about what just happened today because Illinois' Governor J.B. Pritzker didn't tiptoe. He didn't hedge. He got up to the mic and flat out said the man in charge has dementia and should be removed from office. Now, that's not a soft jab. That's not bless his heart. Maybe he needs more sleep. That's a political haymaker, and it hit because if you watch 45 lately, you know what Pritzker's pointing at. The slurred words, the half-finished thoughts, the rambling riffs that sound more like somebody ordering at Waffle House at 3 a.m. than a commander-in-chief laying out national policy. We're doing a big thing with the other thing, the greatest thing. Sir, that's not leadership.
Hello guys, welcome back to my social commentary. In a dramatic shutdown, Governor J.B. Pritzker and the leaders of Democratic have found themselves humiliated by the Trump's latest administration ultimatum. The federal officials have demanded that Illinois should deploy its National Guard to Chicago or risk a unilateral move from Washington, a move that Governor J.B. Pritzker called to be outrageous and un-American and rejects it immediately. So while we watch this as it unfolds, let us dive in straight into the video. And if today is your first time of coming across this video, do well to subscribe to our channel so that more videos like this will pop up on screen. Tell us what you think about this particular video in the comment section. Like and share the video to help the channel out.
So this is great. I was just watching video of Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker calling for the 25th Amendment to be invoked against Donald Trump. And he talked about how he's unhinged. He is probably suffering from dementia. He's getting worse, and he's a threat to the country. And so I'm going to play you just a small portion of what Governor Pritzker said. But then I really need to make some important points about this, because there's something that people really need to understand about the 25th Amendment. Anyway, watch this.
Note, the President of the United States is not sending troops into Republican cities or into Republican states. He's talked about it, but that's not what he's doing. He is focused on Democrats, and now he's made an enemies list. He's made a list of people that are his political opponents, and he's calling us domestic enemies. I mean, what kind of a country are we in here? The United States used to be a country where the president followed the Constitution, where the president believed in the rule of law, where the president didn't target people based on their views, but rather had debate with people and maybe won, maybe lost in an election and put their views forward and got them passed. But the idea that you're going to go suggest that you're going to arrest people or that people don't deserve to be U.S. citizens when they are, just because they oppose the President of the United States. There is something genuinely wrong with this man, and the 25th Amendment ought to be invoked.
Okay, so I absolutely love to hear Governor Pritzker calling this man out and imploring people to do something about this. That this is not right, this is un-American, and this man should not be president. And he's talking about taking action to strip him of his power. And I absolutely support that. More people should be calling for this. I mean, the number of impeachable offenses and outright crimes that he has committed just since taking office in January, the fact that not everyone is talking about how do we remove this guy from office it's an illustration of how screwed up this country is, because we would not have tolerated virtually any of this from any other president. Anyway, but there's something that I really need to address about the 25th Amendment. Because can we all agree, let's agree on something real quick. What really should happen to Donald Trump is that he should be impeached and removed from office. That, we can agree on that, right? That is what should happen to him. Now, people aren't talking about that because we've tried it twice, it didn't work. But just because we've tried it twice and it's failed doesn't mean it couldn't work a third time. But we've been down that road, didn't work. People understand how difficult it is to impeach and remove a president. And obviously impeachment alone in the House is not enough. You also have to get that conviction vote in the Senate, where you need 2/3 of the senators to vote to convict him. And we understand that it's, given the fact that this is a Republican-controlled Congress, it seems like an impossibility. So people are talking about, well, what else can we do? And while I don't see anyone really calling for his impeachment and removal, I see people bringing up the 25th Amendment a lot. And I'm not opposed to that. I'm certainly not opposed to people talking about how do we get rid of this guy? How do we remove this man from office? So I'm all for that. Here's the problem. Impeachment is really the only way to get him out of office. And that's what I want to talk about. Because the truth is, most people who talk about the 25th Amendment don't actually
tell them the truth. If you read this comment below, you understand that American education is poor. Aside from what's it called, punctuation, there was so much stuff written here that it's just sad to see. Democrats assassinate every person promoting black people. Who are you? But I did engage with a comment. I gave him a response and said, you might want to Google something called Southern Strategy. And then maybe you can come back, because this is kind of embarrassing to see somebody write this comment. We all know they told y'all that Lincoln was the great emancipator. Man, don't y'all know that was black people just trying to appease? He was just trying to be cool. He wasn't no great emancipator. All he did was sign something so that black people would not be fighting on the side of the Confederacy. Lincoln didn't care. He didn't care about whether blacks were free or not. He just wanted people to not fight. So by giving the Emancipation Proclamation, and it gave people the impression that they were free. The Emancipation Proclamation was not law. But what he did is he basically dismantled the Confederacy's ability to fight, because you were losing bodies. The people at the smelting plant that made weapons, the slave labor that they were using in the South to feed people. That's what that was. He wrote it himself, that if he thought that slavery would have stopped the war, he would have been pro-slavery. And if he thought it was going to, ending it, slavery would stop it, he would have done that too. He just flipped the coin, I guess. And please, somebody help whoever this gentleman is understand what history is. They've been giving y'all so much bad information. Just real quick, I had a conversation with a guy that I grew up with. Stand-up dude, not a racist bone in his body. But I realized in asking questions that y'all are not, we weren't taught history. They gave you a generic book that was approved by a school board that didn't want you to know any truths. So those who've gone off to college and maybe took some additional studies on sociology that were willing to be taught by someone who was bold enough to tell truths in a college or a secondary education, you got it. But poor dude right here, just as lost. And do me a favor, bruh, please. If you're going to put a period, at least start the next sentence with a capital letter, man. That's sad to see. Telling the truth. Whew. We in trouble, y'all. Read books.
Guys, we need to talk about what just happened today, because Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker didn't tiptoe. He didn't hedge. He got up to the mic and flat out said the man in charge has dementia and should be removed from office. Now, that's not a soft jab. That's not bless his heart. Maybe he needs more sleep. That's a political haymaker, and it hit, because if you watch 45 lately, you know what Pritzker's pointing at. The slurred words, the half-finished thoughts, the rambling riffs that sound more like somebody ordering at Waffle House at 3 a.m. than a commander-in-chief laying out national policy. We're doing a big thing with the other thing, the greatest thing. Sir, that's not leadership. That's a Denny's menu meltdown. But here is the real problem. Saying it doesn't make it true. and saying it doesn't actually fix the system, because today's moment should spark one bigger question than Trump, bigger than Pritzker, bigger than party lines. Why don't we already have mandatory fitness tests for the people running this country? Think about it. Airline pilots take regular health checks before they're trusted to fly a plane. Truck drivers get drug tested to haul freight across the interstate. Your grandma has to take a vision test to keep her driver's license. But the guy holding the nuclear codes, the most powerful seat on earth, no annual cognitive exam, no independent medical disclosure, just a lot of partisan shrieking. And let's be honest about the 25th Amendment. Pritzker can say remove him all day long, but invoking that thing isn't like hitting an elevator button. It takes the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to all line up and say he's unfit. Do you see this cabinet doing that? The same crew that nods like bobbleheads when he makes up imaginary countries on stage? Not a chance. These folks couldn't find their backbone with Google Maps. So yes, Pritzker lobbed a grenade into the news cycle today, but the smarter move for us is to take that spark and fan the flame into a real demand. Independent medical transparency, a rule book that forces every leader, left and right, to prove they're fit for duty. Because let's not pretend this only applies to one man. Half of Congress would break into a nervous sweat if they had to release their cognitive scores. That's why nobody in Washington wants to touch this conversation with a 10-foot barge pole. But here is the truth. We're the ones paying the price for their silence. We're the ones who deserve to know if the person steering the ship is actually awake at the wheel. So yeah, Pritzker made headlines today, but the headline that should really matter is this. If pilots need health checks to fly a plane, then presidents damn sure need them to fly a nation. And that, my friends, is the question they don't want us asking. So share this, subscribe to my Substack at the link in my bio to support, and follow for more. Because this is the Southern Punk Project, where we're bringing you the truth in a world built on lies.
Do you understand what this means? Democrats are continuing on their dehumanization campaign against Republicans, against President Trump, against anything that's considered right of center or MAGA. This is no more apparent than the response by Democrats to the recently unearthed text messages sent by the current Democrat Attorney General candidate running in Virginia, talking about the Republican Speaker of that assembly back in 2022, saying that he should catch 2 bullets, saying that his children are fascists and that they are evil. Democrat Abigail Spanberger, who's running to be the governor of Virginia, she said she disavows the statement, but she is not calling for Jay Jones to suspend his campaign and drop out of the race. And that just proves everything. The dehumanizing campaign of Democrats against Republicans will not end until average, everyday Americans wake up and say, no more. That's what needs to happen from average, everyday Americans that don't view themselves necessarily as a Republican or a Democrat. And my hope is that people wake up and understand that this dehumanizing campaign is rooted deep within the Democrat Party. Now, I'm not saying every single Democrat, of course not, but I'm saying that many elected Democrats, absolutely. And I already know there's a bunch of people that can say, well, Republicans have been calling Democrats socialists and communists, because it's true. You have the Democrat Socialists of America. They talk about Marxist ideology. They might not say like, oh, I'm a, dyed-in-the-wool commie, but they already ascribe to those values of socialism and communism and Marxism. But more importantly, it's because the Democrats then say things like, punch a Nazi. But I want you to ask yourself, have Republicans been calling for violence to be used against these socialists and communists? No, we have not. So enough with that nonsense of the both sidesism. There are no both sides. Democrats have embraced and employed a system of dehumanizing Republicans also they can take back power. That's why they've been doing it. I'm not going to play these games where you say, well, oh, it's not every Democrat. Of course we know it's not every single Democrat, but by and large, it's the entire Democratic apparatus. From Joe Biden to Tim Walz, every major Democrat candidate or office holder has called Donald Trump a fascist and called MAGA fascist. That's where we're at as a country.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you for watching the video. I would say that Democrat has been fractured, knowing that the strongman Governor J.P. Pritzker, has been bossed and criticized by both his allies and opponents and exposed for lacking leverage. The humiliation is not just about politics. It is about power. It is about authority. It is about who really calls the shot in the state of Illinois. Thank you for watching the video, and like I said before, if today is the first time I'm coming across this video, do well to subscribe to our channel. Tell us what you think about this particular video in the comment section so that more videos like this will pop up your screen, and please like and share the video to help the channel out. You're welcome.